We continue our parish reading of Laudate Deum, Pope Francis's Apostolic Exhortation on the climate crisis. Resistance and confusion. Article 6. In recent years, some have chosen to deride these facts. They bring up allegedly solid scientific data, like the fact that the planet has always had and will have periods of cooling and warming. They forget to mention another relevant datum, that what we are presently experiencing is an unusual acceleration of warming, at such a speed that it will take only one generation, not centuries or millennia, in order to verify it. The rise in the sea level and the melting of glaciers can be easily perceived by an individual in his or her lifetime, and probably in a few years many populations will have to move their homes because of these facts. In order to ridicule those who speak of global warming, it is pointed out that intermittent periods of extreme cold regularly occur. One fails to mention that this and other extraordinary symptoms are nothing but diverse alternative expressions of the same cause, the global imbalance that is provoking the warming of the planet. Droughts and floods, the dried up lakes, communities swept away by seaquakes and flooding ultimately have the same origin. At the same time, if we speak of a global phenomenon, we cannot confuse this with sporadic events explained in good part by local factors. Lack of information leads to confusion between large-scale climate projections that involve long periods of time, we are talking about decades at least, with weather forecasts that at most can cover a few weeks. When we speak of climate change, we are referring to a global reality that persists for several decades. In an attempt to simplify reality, there are those who would place responsibility on the poor, since they have many children, and even attempt to resolve the problem by mutilating women in less developed countries. As usual, it would seem that everything is the fault of the poor. Yet, the reality is that a richer percentage of the planet contaminates more than the poorest 50% of the total world population, and that per capita emissions of the richer countries are much greater than those of the poorer countries. How can we forget that Africa, home to more than half of the world's poorest people, is responsible for a minimal portion of historic emissions? It is often heard that efforts to mitigate climate change by reducing the use of fossil fuels and developing cleaner energy sources will lead to reduction in number of jobs. What is happening is that millions of people are losing their jobs due to different effects of climate change. Rising sea levels, droughts, and other phenomena affecting the planet have left many people adrift. Conversely, the transition to renewable forms of energy, properly managed, as well as efforts to adapt to the damage caused by climate change, are capable of generating countless jobs in different sectors. This demands that politicians and business leaders should even now be considering themselves with it. Here ends our first reading.